Good morning. If you get a chance to watch a documentary about, it's called The Wild and Wonderful Whites of West Virginia. They live in Boone County. If you get a chance to watch that video, documentary, watch it. It's a pretty graphic description of scoundrels and villains. And at least that's what we think about when we think of scoundrels and villains, if you'll see that. It's about a family called the Whites that are pretty famous in Boone County. They're not famous for doing honorable things. In fact, their moral is of their lifestyle is fussing, fighting, and partying. Both the men, women, and even kids. They've been arrested for numerous things, all the way up to murder. There's anything scrupulous about them. And so when we think about the scoundrels and villains, a lot of times we think about that, or maybe a used car salesman, somebody that says, he's got a great deal for you. And but that's not quite all the description that the Bible has for us. And that's what we're going to talk about today. And Solomon, the father, has warned his son about a number of things, from not hanging around or getting close to an adulterous woman, to not co-signing for anybody. And here he's warning them about crooked people and not to hang around them. Okay, so remember in Bible study methods and inductive Bible study methods, one of the things I wanted to teach you as we're going along with this is how to do your own inductive Bible study. And we do that by doing three things, and that's observation, interpretation, application. Observation is discovering what the text says. Okay, that's all we want to do. We want to discover. We don't want to put anything in it. We don't want to read anything in it. We don't want to invent anything. All we're doing is making discoveries. Okay, interpretation is on some passage that we have to give an explanation for. Okay, it takes a lot of work, and for that we apply hermeneutical principles, literally, historically, grammatically, in order to come up with the literal, interpretation, whatever that passage has to say. And then application, and that's really where we want to get to, because the Bible is not given to inform us, but to transform us. So we need to make application always at the end of our Bible studies. Otherwise, all we're doing is just creating a lot of knowledge, which just puffs up. Okay, in observations, we discover things. And I told you there's a couple things that we look for. First of all, we look for terms. So words that kind of stand out, like they're repeated terms, or they're terms that need further explanation. Or we look for connectives, things that tell us about chronology or purpose, different connectives that's going to give a clue as to what's coming next. Okay, cause and effect, that sort of thing. We look for structure, the way the passage is constructed. We look for the literary style, the way the genre has been written, the author wrote it. Here we're dealing with wisdom literature. And then we look for the non-tangible, and that's the atmosphere. Okay, that's transcending and feeling yourself into the audience at that particular time. Okay, so here we have, and we're looking at Proverbs chapter 6. We're going to look at verses 12 to 15. Let me read it to you, then I'll explain a little bit, okay? And as I go along, kind of follow along with me, okay? It says, and the father's saying, a scoundrel and villain who goes about with a corrupt mouth, who winks with his eyes, singles with his feet, motions with his fingers, who plots evil with deceit in his heart. He always stirs up dissension. Therefore, disaster will overtake him in an instant. He will suddenly be destroyed without remedy. Now, what I did was I posted some pictures on Facebook to introduce what I was going to do a live video today. And the pictures was, one is of that family in Boone County. Another was the me generation, or the generation Y or X or whatever they call them, millennials. that believe that they're entitled to everything. Okay? And then also that one girl that's always complaining and fussing about everything with the environment. Okay? That's another way of looking at some of this villains and scoundrels. The word villain and scoundrels is two sides of the same coin. Okay, what is a scoundrel? A scoundrel basically is a lowlife, a person that's unscrupulous, has no morals whatsoever. And a villain obviously is someone that's evil, has evil intent, and that's all they think about is doing evil. Okay, so the thing that you have, like the white family, they don't work, but they always have money. They're in drugs, they're in alcohol, they're in prostitution, they're in all kinds of different immoral activities. Well, the same is true with a lot of these Generation Y and millennials and all that. They know how to work. They know how to work the system. The white family, they work the system with Social Security, unemployment, and they know how to work the system too with unemployment, extended rent, so far. Basically, they're scoundrels. Okay, and I'll explain why I think they're scoundrels in a minute. Okay, but anybody that knows how to work the system can make money from a government that is not responsible. Okay, this is nothing new. I can remember way back in the 60s when they started the welfare that they would give food stamps to families. And these families, some of these families are generally a single parent. They would take the food stamps and they would sell them for cash. Let's say they had $500 worth of food stamps. They'd sell them to somebody for $300. So the person paying $300 can go and purchase $500 worth of food, and the person that had the food stamps now has $300 in cash, which they can use to go spend on booze and cigarettes and drugs. How do I know? I was in many of those homes. I saw. And I remember a lot of women, they used to think, gee, if I have another child, I can get more. The more children I have, the more money I can get from the government. Okay? Now, they have cards now. Well, they still do the same thing. They just give the card to the person that wants to purchase the food. And then after the guy purchased the food, then they go and give him the cash. They know how to rig the system. I see people do this all the time, even with the handicap spacing. I know guys that I golf with that are more than capable of walking, yet they have handicap things on their cars and stuff. They're rigging the system. They're scoundrels. Okay. Now, a villain is someone with a little bit more sinister intent. Okay. So, but both of them are pretty much the same person. If they can cheat you, they will. If they can take advantage of you, they will. They're not to be trusted. So the father is really wanting his son to understand there's people like this in the world. Okay? They may look bad and you may, by all the things they're doing, just in their readily apparent. I got them here where I live. There's people here that don't work at all. All they do is walk around in pajamas all day, walking a dog on a leash with the hair up in a bun, and they don't work. Where do they get their money from? They get it from the government. And they're scoundrels, okay? They're going to take advantage of you any way they can. Okay, now, let's go follow along with me in the Bible. It's a scoundrel and villain. Now, notice the term who 3 times. Who goes about with a corrupt mouth? Who winks with his eyes, singles with his feet, motions with his fingers, and who plots evil with deceit in his heart? First of all, they use a lot of body language. Okay? They got a corrupt mouth. They would talk out of the corner of their mouth. You ever wonder where the word, how do they call it? Two tongues. The Indian didn't have a word for lion, so they came up with this term split tongue. So for white people, because they didn't lie, and they would tell you one thing and do another, and that's what a person with a corrupt mouth has. Okay, they're saying one thing, but they have another intent, and behind what they're saying. Okay, so that's the first thing. You can always tell a scoundrel by the way he talks. The talk doesn't measure up to his actions or her actions. Okay, she says one thing but does another thing. Okay, second thing, they wink with their eyes. If a guy does that to a gal, what is he telling her? Okay, he's flirting with her, and that goes on all the time. But what's the intent behind that? Okay, and that's what the father is warning the son to look for. Okay, or it could be that when he's got some mischievous thing, he's got some partners in crime, and he winks to them to let them know, okay, the time now to get the job done is on. Okay. Third thing, they single with their feet. Okay, they let people know the way they point their feet, or whether they make a couple of taps or something, that something's about to go down. It's a single. They're using a lot of body language, okay, here. You have people that are shifty and all that, and they're looking around and they're scoping things and all that. You know that they're up to something. Okay, and they motion with their fingers, come on over here, or, it's not Italians. Italians talk. That's not what he's talking about. Okay, it's using their hands in a way that doesn't coincide with what's going on inside their mind and heart. Okay, now, and then it says, who plots with evil deceit in his heart. Now, there's a word plot is, they give it some thought. You have a plot for a script, and they're actually think it through how this thing is going to come out. And they spend a lot of time, and they stay up all night plotting evil. Okay, that's what scoundrels and villains do. And their end for you is not good. Okay, so now, and it says they always stir up dissension. They're always causing trouble. Now, right away, I recognize another group of people that do this. Who's that? Democratic Party leaders. Okay? They're always stirring up dissension. They're single with one another. They create all kind of plots with one another. They got all this evil things in mind that they have for this country and for people. And so God is warning us, just observe them a little bit. See how they carry themselves, and you're going to recognize right away that they're frauds. Okay? Now here's their end. Okay? And then I'm going to give you a solution for this. Okay, it says, therefore, it goes on down on verse 15, therefore disaster will overtake him in an instant. He will suddenly be destroyed without remedy. What's the end result? Go back to this movie, this documentary, and see how these people's lives end up. Okay, and they end up dead. I mean, and there ain't any help coming by the time they get to that part. Now, let me share a few things. Okay, this is what I believe, and I think the Bible supports this. First of all, the government should not be involved in benevolent work. God never gave that responsibility to the government. That responsibility is given to families and the church. Okay? They're the ones that had the responsibility to do the benevolent work. If I was the head of a government, I wouldn't have any kind of welfare system. I wouldn't have any kind of disability system. I wouldn't have any unemployment system at all. I would turn all that over to the families and churches and their close friends. Let me tell you why that doesn't work right now. Because most of the people that use these systems, I'm not saying everyone, but a lot of them have burned their bridges with their families and friends. Look, if one of your family members is truly in need, or they're just trying to get some money and they don't want to work, you're going to know, okay? You can go fool the government, which is what they do. But you're not going to fool your family or your friends. And you're going to tell them, hey, man, you want some money, go work, go get a job. Okay? But if you did away with these things, okay, God never gave that responsibility to the government. Okay? Government took over that responsibility. The problem with government, even these people that get government assistance, what they don't get, the government don't pray with them. Okay? They don't come around and put their arm around them. Okay? Most of the workers that are handing out those funds, there's some that generally care, but a lot of them could care less. But it's not their responsibility to come alongside and give them scriptural counsel and help them biblically and help them to get their lives where God wants them to be. So they miss out on that by going and get government assistance. 2, they become dependent on it. I know people right now that I know personally that are dependent on government assistance that don't need it. They're taking advantage of it. But they're comfortable with it. They give them just enough to exist, to survive, but not enough to thrive. And what does it do? It robs them of what? Their integrity. It robs them of them ever accomplishing anything. God isn't going to move them necessarily from that spot, not to say he can't. But if you go there and and you make government your God, and government's who's going to be the one that takes care of you, then that's where your help's coming from. Don't go to running to God then. You see. People may disagree, well, go ahead. But I've seen whole communities ruined. Not only by the government coming and doing what the church should do, but also people taking advantage of that. And then what happens when your sons and daughters, they see that, they do the same thing too. As you'll see with this family. When I was in seminary, I remember Howard Hendricks, one of my professors, he talked about 2 family lines. He talked about one family line that produced a lot of teachers and educators and doctors and lawyers and, people that were, good upstanding citizens and then he showed another line of people that were really guys in prison and jail and on drugs and all that. And you show the line from the paternal father all the way down. And he's talking about good families don't just happen. You want to develop a good family, then you got to develop good examples. That doesn't mean that people won't lead from that. I mean, you had Adam and Eve, they're in the most perfect environment, and they produced a murderer as their first son. Okay, people still have free will. But you give them an opportunity in that range. Okay? So let me tell you something about families. First of all, they're the first to know if you got a real problem. Okay? Second of all, with friends, they're generally the first to help. Okay? If they're true your friends. Okay? If they're not, then they're only hanging around you to see what they can get, not what they can give. Okay? The church, they're the first group that will help you get back up on your feet. Okay? Government, they try to come up with programs and all that to try to do things, but they don't ever work and they don't ever last, And I know that they have, I know when Reagan came on, he tried to do that, so, that you're a limited time you could stay on these programs, but you had to work your way out of it. And I think that would be a good step towards that. But I think whenever you give somebody assistance when they don't really need it, I think they're just scoundrels and villains. They're going to take advantage of the system. We got all these people pouring in the country right now. That's what they're doing. Okay? They're taking advantage of the system. Okay? And you have all these millennials, and they're taking advantage. And they basically, what are they learning? Not to work. And so what's going to happen when the money runs out? What do you think they're going to do? Come on, common sense. What's it going to do? They're going to do one of two things. They're going to go to work, or they're going to rob you, or they're going to try. Okay? So now, Solomon's warning the son, hey, there are people like this that have been this way ever since the beginning. It will continue. It's not going to end. Okay, and he's warning them not to hang with these people and to do anything with them, and to recognize them by the way they use their body language. Okay, their end is not good, as it says, therefore disaster will overtake him in an instant, and they will be destroyed without remedy. That's pretty severe. Okay, listen, tomorrow there is something I really want to get to, because we're going to talk about the heart of God, what he really loves and what he doesn't. You know, and I think we all want to be pleasing to God. Okay, y'all good and have a great day. I'll talk to y'all later. God bless you.